I have to admit, I kind of envision like this meeting between these production committee members, and they're all sitting around this table and they're going, we need a hit. We need an actual hit. We're going to make an original. We need a concept that is going to sell. And then one person speaks up and says, but what's big right now? What possibly can we bank on right now? And then somebody else says, hey, SpyXFamily, that was a huge hit last year. We need an Anya. Yes, we need an Anya character. And we'll just build something around it. Don't worry about the rest of it. We just need to make sure that we get an Anya character. And thus was the birth of Buddy Daddies. A new original series by PA Works, being written by Vio Shimakura, who did the writing for Tokyo 24th Ward. Whoever watched that one, that's what you're getting. But no, jokes aside, I really do appreciate Buddy Daddies so far. It has been a pretty solid, cute show, but similar to, yes, Akiba Maid War, which recently happened from PA Works, kind of has that similar, very violent comedy style to it that I'm guessing they're getting really used to these days. But this is my thoughts on the first 2 episodes of Buddy Daddies, a series that is airing in the winter 2023 anime season. It's going to be running for 13 episodes, so let's jump right into it. The basic story of Buddy Daddies, because it kind of jumps around a lot, is that there's these 2 individuals that are kind of hired hitmen. But don't worry, they only kill bad people. But no, it follows this duo, Rei and Kazuki. And the 2 of them on a regular basis will meet with this intelligence distributor named Kyotaro, and he will basically tell them a hit that they need to take down. So they'll research, they'll look into the person they're supposed to take down. It's typically either a human trafficker, a drug dealer, something like that, a mob boss, and the 2 of them will enact a plan to go out and take out the target. Well, yes, one Christmas Eve, their lives completely changed as, yes, their target was to take out this one guy at this one party. But on the way there, Kazuki ends up running into this little girl that was looking for her father. She said that her mother said to come here, that her father would be here. Somehow she managed to take trains and transportation all to arrive here on her own. And yes, so happens to be the target they were taking out. But they didn't know at the time. They rushed in there to go take him out, and unfortunately, the father took the girl hostage. He didn't even know it was his daughter, probably would do it anyways, even if he knew it was his daughter. Took this girl hostage. Kazuki claims, no, it's me. I'm your father, because she's never seen her father before. Jump out to me. And so she jumps out of the guy's arms, reaching out for him while Rei takes out the target. But yes, they find out once they take her back to their place, she has this envelope that was written by her mother. And yes, in that envelope are pictures of the target they just took out. So they kind of stuck with her, and it seems like Kazuki kind of likes her being around, but doesn't like her being around. She's kind of a nuisance, but at the same time, she appreciates his food, which his partner Rei does not. And what kind of follows this is them doing different missions, and at the same time having to juggle the fact that either Miri somehow sneaks into the situation, or she has to be brought along because she's screaming and they're afraid that somebody's going to call the police at their place, they're going to get evicted, something of that sort, and she somehow manages to get into their target and mess things up for them. One example being this drug dealer they have to take out, and she's in the van, but she has to go to the bathroom, so while he's planting all these explosives to send the target out, Miri comes to the front door and has to use the restroom, and these guys with these guns bring her in to use the restroom, and eventually she spots him and screams out his name and messes up everything. There's a couple character developing moments throughout this entire ordeal as well. We find out that Rei seems like very lazy. He's kind of a neat. He just wants to play his video games and eat snacks and makes a mess of the house. Kazuki has to clean it up all the time, and we get a perspective that Kazuki at some point left his wife, his pregnant wife. Now, it hasn't really fully disclosed what exactly happened with his wife, but through this whole interaction with Rei bringing in a stray cat, Kazuki's like, don't bring things into your life. Never bring something you can't take care of into your life. In our line of business as being hitmen, we become the target of people a lot, so you don't want to get involved with somebody because you're just going to get either them involved with the target or yourself and leave them be. And it shows these brief images of Kazuki having a pregnant wife, and again, doesn't really indicate if she had the child, if she got involved in a hit and got injured, and then he decided to leave her. But he's always leaving money with their informant, Kyotaro, to give to her, but it seems like she doesn't want to accept it. And it seems like Kyotaro has some sort of connection between Kazuki and his previous ex-wife, and the idea that he's the one taking the money to her, but she doesn't accept it. And he's like, you know, look, Kazuki, it's about time you move on. So something obviously happened. So there's a little bit of a parental aspect there, in the idea that Kazuki once almost had a child, or had a child but no longer has it, And he sort of likes whenever Meaty looks up to him and asks for food and stuff like that. He loves that attention from this child because it's almost like that replacement. And yes, technically the two of them are trying to find, at least since they can't get her to her father anymore, they're actively trying to figure out where the mother is of this little girl, Meaty. It seems like the mother was a mistress of this mob boss guy, and she just basically said in the letter, here, take your child back, and I want compensation for all the money I've spent to take care of her. So sadly, the two sides either don't want her or don't know she exists. So my thoughts on Buddy Daddies so far. Yeah, I think the first episode was kind of a gut punch in the idea that, yes, and I kind of seen it coming from the moment that we seen her trying to find her papa, and they're going to this target. It's like, either it's going to be some weird twist that it's Kazuki's child, and he just didn't, and the mother knew that they were going there for a hit, and so she sent the child, which would be really stupid. Or, yes, I assumed that it was going to be the target they were taking out. And sure enough, yes, he has the same earrings, hair color, eyes, and everything like that. It kind of seen it coming, but at the same time, it is kind of screwed up that technically this girl now believes that this Kazuki guy is her father, when in fact he killed her father. I'm curious if they will eventually get to the point where they're going to make that a story beat. Like, I don't think they would do it this soon. Granted, it is PA Works. PA Works is known for doing time jumps. So we could have a time at some point in the story. We're only going 13 episodes unless they do 2 cores, like announce the second season. There could become a time in this 13 episodes, or again, further on to 26, that they could have a time jump. And then, yes, it becomes revealed to Meaty, you've been living with the guys that killed your father this entire time. Her being that young, would she care? They might turn it to some melodramatic story beat like anime typically does, but it is something they've technically set up there. But I don't really know that they'd necessarily want to go that route. It almost seems like the story is too comedic for that. And this is going to become maybe a problem for some people. It was technically a problem that I had with Akiba Made War, and the idea that PA Works is not, for me, personally, the best at pulling off the comedic violence, and that's technically what they're doing here. I don't think it's not over the top like Akiba Made War. Don't get me wrong. Akiba Made War was super over the top, goofy about its comedy in the wake of massive violence. This one is taking down the violence just a little bit while ramping up the comedic beats in more of a playful style. It's not going for punchlines, it's going for playful. And I think that will work a little bit differently for a lot of people, including myself, than Akiba Made War. And yes, like I said, so far it's working out well. It's a fun show. It's just overall an entertainingly fun show. Again, I don't necessarily see there being some sort of deep story here. And yes, a lot of the action is over the top in the idea that in the second episode, they literally had like this mob boss guys. His men were like stormtroopers. There's just, you have Ray just walking while shooting, and there's just bullets going everywhere around him. And then Kazuki picks up the kid and starts running the other direction, and there's just bullets going everywhere. None of them are hitting their target. We have stormtrooper levels of bad guys here. But again, I think so far it's just kind of a mixture of, yes, there's a subtle little bit of seriousness in there in the idea of Kazuki leaving a wife behind at some point, fearing for her safety. Yes, technically Kazuki and Ray taking down targets and the violence of that. But overall, it has a fun feel because you can't really take it too seriously. At the same time, you have this presence of this little innocent girl who just wants to play hide and seek in the midst of a shootout. I think it's doing that aspect well. Which, yes, goes to my joke that I made earlier about the idea of the playing off the SpyXFamily fandom with Anya. Even though I mostly jest that, Meaty is a spitting image of an Anya. Now, granted, she's much, much more innocent. Yes, Anya is very innocent in the idea that she doesn't really understand things fully, but at least she can read people, and she sort of understands 90% of what people are thinking. Whereas Meaty is just straight up a child, and they portray her really well. Like the whole aspect of playing hide and seek in their house, she's just running around like a doofball, and every time he catches her, she just runs off giggling. They nailed her age. Like, she is an absolute bundle of fun goofball, and I think that's going to add well to the chemistry of these two guys. That, yes, they're not hard-blooded killers. I mean, they do have personality to them. They're not blank face characters. Now, granted, Ray is sort of blank, but that's because he's a NEET. He's just a deadbeat NEET. So I think the chemistry so far is really solid between the three of them. And I think that could be really fun going forward. And I think we've already been presented with that chemistry they're probably going to do going forward in this first mission in the second episode, where you do have, yes, Meaty comes in and screws everything up. I think that's going to be the basic concept here. Target, go in for the target, plan it, Meaty screws it up. And I think it could be a lot of fun. And I think if they do that and they play their cards right, this series could possibly continue to do really well going forward. I watched, honestly, 2 episodes specifically to do my first impressions because I was afraid we would have another Akiba Maid War, which, again, I understand people really love that show. I got tons of downvotes for my review of it, but for me, it didn't work. The comedy didn't work. And yes, comedy's subjective. This one's working for me because it's so lighthearted, it's so goofy, and yes, very fun and playful and entertaining that way. That all said, I will admit some of the scenes drag out a little bit too much. Like I was mentioning earlier, this kind of pre-mission segment, just before they went out to take out this boss in the second episode, they have this very long segment, which is pretty much the first morning of having Miri here. Kazuki's having to feed her. She's making a mess. They're making comparisons of Rei's messiness with her messiness. That kind of stuff. It kind of played out a little bit too long. That scene kind of dragged out a little bit too long. So I do have a little bit of a concern about how they're going to pace out a lot of this content they have in here. And why that makes me concerned is that typically is a sign they don't really have too much to work with here. They're trying to drag out scenes because they don't have much to put in there. But again, the telling sign is going to be in the future episodes. Visually, for typical PA works, looks really good. I think Mii looks fantastic. She's super adorable. The action scenes are plenty awesome. Even the first opening segment of the first episode where it had CGI cars and bikes and stuff, they're doing a lot better with CGI vehicles, and that's a massive amount of credit for PA Works because in the past, they've always been kind of hit and miss with it. But yeah, if you're looking for a fun, goofy comedy action show with 2 hitmen and a goofy little girl, definitely check out this series. I'll be interested to see how it kind of pans out going forward. I think if anything, if anybody kind of is cooling off on SpyXFamily, this might be that series to cheer you back up with the Anya character, because again, it's literally Anya. That's my thoughts on Buddy Daddies. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below, comment, let me know what you thought of the series if you're gonna be checking it out. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. We also have a membership button where you can become a member of the channel and get some exclusive speed channel emotes. I greatly appreciate everybody that supports us, and y'all take care.